check out the Patreon and gain access to all the source code. Hey, welcome to part 2 of making this recommended level system and recommended gear system. So let's just get right back into it. So we have now set up our gear recommendations and locations. Let's just change this as I was talking about in the other video. So here, what you want to do, since we have the table now with the gear recommendations, you simply add gear recommendations and then put the 1 in here. So now, since we know a thing you can do is if you go to the end here, just for your own sake, remember to set a comma here. Just for helping yourself, you can make a comment here, and we know this is deadmine because of the ID. So now we have added this, and this will go in and use the gear recommendation 1, which is self-crafted gear, because we set 1 here. If we set 2 instead, it would say raid gear. So now that works. Next, let us actually loop through all locations and find the correct map and then send the message. So what we first want to do here is that we want to say if then, and in here we say player. So if the player is not nil, so if it's not, because if the player is nil, you will get errors. So we just check if the player is valid, and if it is, we do what is in here, and that will be the first thing we want to do. Map ID from the player. So I will just make comments here so everyone can follow along and take a quick look and see what each of the things are. So here we want to get the map ID from the player. So that would say map ID. This is just a variable. You can name it whatever you want. And then you say equals player. And then we need to get the player map, get map ID. So let's head on Eluna For Sylcore. Here we want to say, okay, we want to get the map ID. So map ID. So let's see here. What is there we can do? So we see world object has a get map of ID. Well, a player is also, so if you write player up here and you find the class, oh sorry, my bad. So if you find the class for player here, you see the player inherits methods from object, world object, and unit. And world object was the one that had the map ID here. So we can call this on the player. So as you see here, what we want to do here is basically just write player here and call colon get map ID and call it. So let's copy this, and then go in here and do like that. Now we have, now when the map it changes, this event it gets called, then it goes into a function. Since the player is valid, we store the map ID of the player now inside here. This is just so we have access to it instead of writing this all the time. This is just faster and better way to set up stuff in programming. Next, we want the level range text, and that's this part. And then we want the gear recommendation text, and it's this part. I will explain why we do this, and I will go more in depth on it. So let's just write it here. So this is level range text here. So level range text equals nil, because we have nothing to set it to right now. So we'll just have it as nil. Next is the gear recommendation locations. Yes. Maybe I spelled that wrong, but yeah. So that would be here. Recommendations text equals nil, because we again don't have anything to set this to yet. So now we have these values here. Next, what we want to do is that since the player is now the player's valid, we have the player's map ID, and we have these two empty values right now ready to store the level range and the gear recommendation in. So what we want to do now is we want to loop over this table, and looping is basically just going over each. So if we did like this, so if we copied this, and let's say we had like this, so we have 5 different dungeons. What a loop does is that it goes through the size of this, which is 5. Then it gets to this, then it says, okay, is map ID what we want to do. It takes everything here, then we can check if map ID is equals to the player's map ID. If it is, then we can set these and send the message. If not, it will just continue to the next one and the next one and so on. Let me just remove this. So we are back. So now let's make the loop. So for I equals 1, comma, hashtag locations. Reason for the hashtag is that way we get the table size and not just the table. And then we say do and end. So now inside the loop, we want to do a check. So here, check if current location found is map ID is same as player. This is just a comment, you don't need to write it. So here we make an if statement. So if, and we just write down here. So inside the if, we write locations. So it's the table name. And then we go inside it, you could say. And then we say I, because I is the index of the loop. And here, what we then do is now we are inside the index. Then we say 1. Reason we say 1 is because when you're inside, so this is the table. Here we got what I would personally call another table, you could say, inside the table. So 1 is the index of this. 2 is the index of the text. 3 is the rate. And 4th is the gear recommendation. So it's 1. And then we have, right now, what we are doing here is that we have the 36. Now we compare, so we check if it's equals to the map ID. If it is, we are in here. And so what we want to do here is just add another, store the level text, range text. Here, our level range text should be equal to locations I, and this would be number 2, because this is the text. So now this value now holds this text. And then we go down to the next, and here our store gear recommendations. Probably spelled wrong again. Let me just copy this so I can spell it correctly. Here we set the text to be equal to location. Oh, my bad. Locations I, and was, yeah, this is 4, yeah. So right now we are actually storing inside the gear recommendation text. Now we store the location .I, or the I, so the index, and number 4, so this is this one. So we basically store a reference to this, or we store this text right now. And the next thing we want to do is basically just something I forgot to do up here, is make isRate equals nil from start, or isRate false. Let's just say it like it is. And then we say isRate equals to locations index, and then we want to get the number 3. And the reason we get number 3 is just for we get the isRate. So here, store isRate. Now what we can do is we can enter, or we not enter, so we can actually start printing. So since we know we will always only find the location once, what we can just do now is that we can call send message to player. So now what we want to do is we want to just send the player message, or send the message to the player. So as we have used in other tutorials, we can just send the play message here. But since I want to make sure people understand this, we will go to Eluna docs again, and then we will write send message. So we can send the sys message if you want, but we can also just send a chat message. So you see unit, and as before, player is also type of unit, or inherits methods from unit. So we will be using this one. So copy this, go back, set it here, because this is the player, we call the send message to player. And now this, as we saw before, this function needs the arguments. So the type will always be 0. This is like a say. I think a say is 0, if I'm not totally lost. The language will always be what is called 7, because 7 means that everyone can understand it. And now let's see, we now need the message, and then the player it should be targeted at. Message would be, let's see here, so we want to like do a simple one here. So we want to like say let me think, this dungeon has a recommended level of, and then space, and then 2 dots, and then we add the level range text. Now this will send the level range text, but let's make another one here. Let's just copy this line and put it down here, and now let's change this to the what is it called, the gear recommendation text. So that would be, so instead of this, we will write gear, or we would write gear recommendation text dot is recommended. And now we will be able to actually head in game and try it. So let's real quick try that. So reload Eluna. And now, if everything is correct, try and hit outside here. Okay. So let me check real quick. That's my bad. I actually forgot something. We need to send this to the player too. So back in the code. So here we do a comma again, and then we send it to the player. So we send it to ourselves, and then we do it for both. So now we can go in game. We can click enter, and I will just go out here, and then I will. This is because it didn't have the player argument, because I haven't reloaded Eluna yet. So let's just do that real quick. So reload Eluna, and now it will reload. And now when we go in, this dungeon has a recommended level of 15 to 25. Self-crafted gear is recommended. So now we have actually made our first, or not our first, but we have made our like gear recommendation and item level recommendation, and you can add even more to this. Like you can make this like a broadcasting thing if you want. Let's say if you made sometime, if you like wanted to make something like a hardcore mode, you can make this broadcast to every player on the server that someone died. So this is a great like way to show how we can use these messages to make some new features and new things, which is actually quite awesome. But yeah, in the next episode we will look into making a better function for this, so it doesn't look this bad, and we'll make sure that we actually use this isRaid function, or not function, sorry, the boolean, so that if it's a raid or a dungeon, it will automatically reflect that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider leaving a like and a subscribe. See you in the next one.